Welcome to the state of Ohio. I'm Karen Kassler. Once again, things went down to the wire at the Statehouse as the Ohio Redistricting Commission approved new district maps for state representatives and state senators just past the constitutional deadline. And those maps are likely to guarantee a Republican supermajority at the Statehouse for the next 4 years, when the maps will have to be redrawn because there was not the bipartisan agreement necessary to create 10-year maps. The move comes after days of debates behind closed doors, and even those who voted for the map say they believe the plans will be challenged in court as being gerrymandered. Statehouse correspondent Andy Chow reports.
Just after the clock struck midnight on Wednesday, the Redistricting Commission approved the new Ohio House and Ohio Senate district maps 5-2, with the 2 Democrats on the panel voting against. Republican Senate President Matt Huffman says these maps, which he proposed, follow all the guardrails created in the Ohio Constitution.
I think it's important that this commission vote on a map that is constitutional. This is the only map, and with this amendment, will continue to be the only map that is constitutional.
But others disagree with the constitutionality of the maps. The new maps lean towards 62 Republican seats and 37 Democratic seats in the House. In the Senate, Republicans are likely to win 23 seats, leaving 10 districts favorable to the Democrats. Right now, there are 64 Republicans in the House and 35 Democrats, and 25 Republicans and 8 Democrats in the Senate. House Minority Leader Amelia Sykes says this is clearly gerrymandering and that the maps fail to follow a section of the Constitution created by a 2015 ballot issue that voters approved overwhelmingly and that state lawmakers supported.
No General Assembly district plan shall be drawn primarily to favor or disfavor a political party, end quote. In contrast, the maps adopted today go to absurd lengths to create a Republican monopoly on legislative power that they have not earned at the ballot box.
Her father and fellow Democratic Redistricting Commission member, Senator Vernon Sykes, has been working on redistricting reform for years and was a key leader in getting the 2015 ballot issue passed. Sykes says these maps fail to accomplish the goal of fair districts.
There's no way that I would slap the people in the face that promote fair districts and put them in a slough, put them in the misfortune that we've been suffering for decades for another 10 years.
While Vernon Sykes and Amelia Sykes voted against the maps, the 5 Republicans on the commission voted for them. But the statewide elected officials prefaced their votes with their disappointment in the process, which went into the 11th hour of the constitutional deadline to approve the maps. Secretary of State Frank LaRose was among the leaders who said they were trying to find a compromise, working with Democrats to find common ground, but the process ran into a stalemate.
It didn't have to be this way. Some of us worked in good faith, in a bipartisan way, to try to get a compromise. There are members of this committee who I do not believe worked in good faith to try to reach that compromise, but here we are.
LaRose stopped short of saying who specifically was acting in bad faith. Governor Mike DeWine also voiced his frustration with the parties not being able to reach an agreement, saying he had to vote yes because there was no end in sight.
I think we could have had a map that was more clearly constitutional, more clearly followed what the Constitution says, but that's not what the reality was. So while I've been optimistic and I've been hopeful, and I thought that the parties, frankly, weren't that far apart. They weren't as far apart as they thought they were. And I thought really there was something that could be worked out that would give us a 10-year map, which is really what the optimal would have been. It became clear to me tonight in those discussions, one-on-one, that was just not going to happen. And it was just a futile act not to move forward at this point.
Voting rights groups, many of whom turned out to offer public comment at meetings around the state, have also voiced their opposition to the maps. The executive director of the League of Women Voters of Ohio said lawmakers who voted for the maps, quote, put their short-sighted and selfish interest over the rights of the people. But she says another ballot issue to make more changes in the process is 100% on the table. The anti-gerrymandering group All on the Line wrote in a statement, quote, "Despite the resounding message Ohioans sent about the need for fair maps, the Republican commissioners have sent back one of their own. They just don't care. They don't care about fairness. They don't care about public input. They don't care about our reforms or following the law. And they ultimately don't care about our democracy," end quote. The group Fair Districts Ohio, which brought the changes to the process to voters, wrote, quote, "Fair Districts Ohio is still reviewing the Ohio House and Senate maps and considering next steps, including possible litigation and ballot initiatives in the future," end quote. It is likely groups will mount a legal challenge and take these maps to the Ohio Supreme Court. They're back in session in person now. There are now 3 Democrats on the court compared to the 1 Democratic justice when the existing maps were challenged in 2011. The current maps were upheld, but among the 3 votes to strike them down was current Chief Justice Maureen O'Connor, who's still on the court. Andy Chow, Statehouse News Bureau.